Hello, everyone. My name is Jared Altick, and I'm a chaplain with the police department. The Hey Chaplain podcast is a place where members of the law enforcement community share their wisdom and experience through me, the chaplain, so that they can encourage others who wear the badge. On Hey Chaplain, you'll hear from dispatchers and federal agents, sheriffs and U.S. Marshals, as well as local detectives and patrolmen in my hometown of Kansas City. From the LAPD to Scotland Yard, the guests on Hey Chaplain deliver advice and insights so that police officers everywhere can survive and thrive. Today I'm talking to Mike Edwards, better known on the interwebs as Mike the Cop. Mike is a well-known humorist and social media personality with 500,000 YouTube subscribers and 1 million Facebook followers who read his posts and watch his sketch comedy, at least when he's not in quote-unquote social media jail for being politically incorrect. I wanted to talk to Mike about how to transition out of law enforcement and how to do that in a wise and healthy way. Mike has a lot of insight about the pressures of law enforcement, and he has a plan for what you can do when you're ready for the next chapter. Here's Mike the Cop. Hello, Mike. How are you today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Let me ask you some questions about transitioning out of law enforcement and how to do that with some wisdom. But I'd like to start with, kind of you and your own story and your own personality. Have you always been funny? Like when you were a kid, were you somebody that went out of your way to make people laugh?
I guess if people think I'm funny, that's a debatable topic. There's a lot of people online that think I'm not funny at all. So I mean, that is a personal taste issue for sure. So I don't claim to be funny. I just claim that I put stuff out there.
Right.
I find it interesting or funny or whatever. You don't have to, that's okay. I think that, I used to yuck it up, but I was actually pretty shy. I grew up in a pretty tight bubble. But among people that I knew, then I would always I always got a kick out of making them laugh or yucking it up and never taking things too seriously. So, but in the general public wouldn't have pegged me as that because I was pretty shy until probably late high school, early college.
Okay. So how do you move from that to, making skits about law enforcement and that kind of stuff?
Officer Daniels, he was on Vine.
Yes. And
I was looking at his stuff, and we were looking for ways to bring attention to our nonprofit, Humanizing the Badge. And so I was like, well, I could try to do stuff like that and make videos.
Right.
So I just happened to make one. I looked at Vines and I kind of had, I don't know if a formula is the right answer, but I would look for a trend and then I would try to apply the trend to policing. But I made a video and put it on Facebook because that's all I had at the time was Facebook. I didn't even have like Instagram or I didn't have a Vine. I don't think I just had Facebook, and I wasn't even really a big Facebooker per se. I just, that
was the social media you had, right?
Yeah. I really didn't. I didn't post a lot. I wasn't like checking my phone all the time, but I posted that video and woke up the next morning to, the video had gone, I guess, viral or whatever. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of views or shares or what all the stuff that was going on. I was like, oh wow, I guess that worked. and I just never stopped. The police career gives you endless comedic material.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I would just take things and I would look at what was going on in culture and try to kind of cross that with police experiences and do it in a way that was authentic to me, and off to the races we were.
How long did the, creating social media content, how long did that overlap with your law enforcement career? Was it multiple years that you were doing both at the same time?
As far as video stuff goes, Mike the Cop didn't start till February of 2016. So that was 4 years away from me being entirely done, with active policing at all. So
did you run into any conflict? I mean, I can think of a lot of commanders and PR kind of people who would be pretty skittish about an officer making social media content. Did you get a lot of pushback on there?
Nope, I didn't. I was blessed with a guy that understood. I had been doing the nonprofit stuff in the police space for a couple of years before I ever made a video. So for me, it was, I had already, I guess, earned a little bit of trust from the admin with what I was doing in that space. And I had a really good leader at the time. He was a kind of a cop's cop and really was supportive of it and saw the benefit in it and gave me a lot of rope. And I tried to respect that and not abuse it. And that every time I continued to make content and all that, I just earned more trust because I wasn't abusing it. I wasn't out there I wasn't, shredding up company time doing it. I got a fake uniform top and badge and all that stuff. I mean, there was some times that I definitely filmed myself in my real uniform, but I was always tagged out like on a break or for lunch or something. I just had good people around me. So I was really fortunate that was the case.
See, because that's a divisive thing. To be funny about law enforcement, there are people who get it and people who appreciate it. But then there's going to be that other crowd that's just offended at everything. And boy, I can't imagine how much of a lightning rod you must have been, at least to some of those people.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of people that hate me.
Well, if nobody ever is upset with you, you probably didn't do anything important. And so, that's
probably not.
That's true. Yeah. So, how much did making people laugh and getting that response on social media, how important did that become to you? I mean, did it figure into like your own personal wellness? Like, was that therapy for you?
Yeah, I think there was certainly some cathartic benefits from making content. Long before I started doing videos, I was writing a blog, and I don't even really think I was putting my real name out there. I think that's where, Mike the Cop came from. I was just sort of like doing things behind the scenes, writing stuff, sharing my thoughts and experiences. And that was always like a good experience for me personally, to sort of like take what I was thinking or feeling and put it into some form, written or otherwise. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I felt like that helped me kind of pass through this stuff instead of hold on to things. I was able to kind of pass them through and filter them through the right lenses. And so I think as I look back on it, I think it was probably really good for my, my overall well-being to just continue to be myself and have that outlet for sure.
Yeah. If you really could do anything, if everything was equally monetizable and received well, no matter what it was, what kind of content would you want to produce? Would it be the skits or would it be writing or what would you want to do?
It's a really good question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. So it makes me think it's really good. I'm used to getting a lot of very similar questions, and that one is something that no one has ever asked me.
Well, you don't talk to chaplains often enough. That's it.
Yeah. Well, my dad's a chaplain, so I talk to him like
really?
Yeah. So that's a really good. It's probably mood dependent,
Okay, sure.
Or stylistically, if it's something that's really serious, that has a lot of weight to it, I tend to want to write it. And if it's something lighthearted, I would tend to want to make a sketch out of it or say something about it, like be sarcastic. So verbally, it's easier for me to convey that and encapsulate that idea in a brief way in video. Right. And if it has more gravity to it, I feel like at least I'm better at writing that stuff than I am making shorter videos about it.
Sure. So, do you think you have a book in you?
Maybe. I've thought about it, but We'll see.
Sure.
I wrote one on real estate. We got a book out on real estate, but I have a short book on like, you can't make this stuff up. It's just edited cop stories of people that have submitted them to me. And
right.
We put a little book out of funny cop stories.
Oh, there's no limit. Absolutely. Yeah. There's so much of that content. That's fantastic. Yeah. There's just an endless supply of great stories. Yeah.
Right.
So let me ask you, just, drawing on your own personal experience, how does a cop know when to leave law enforcement? I mean, everyone has to leave eventually, even if you retire after 30 years. So how do you know when to hang it up? Is there a way to know that?
I don't know. I think that there's probably different reasons, and the signs that it's time would be reason dependent. Reason one would be mental health. Let's just call it your well-being.
Yeah.
Physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever. If there's some serious issues going on that continue to recur and be a struggle that is taking away from the overall quality of your life or your ability to fulfill your roles as, a spouse or parent or whatever, any of those things. If you're struggling to live that out, then I think that becomes, a sign that maybe it's time to transition for you,
Right.
Then if you have other opportunities, it may be if you have some long-term goals for your career and you're not able to achieve those goals, you've come so far. That was part of it for me. I had career goals, and the way that God had it worked out was a lot of shifting and walls moving around to where it's like I just kind of pushed myself out of the other end. Like, okay, it's time for me. I have other opportunities to reach goals. And if I want to do that, I'm going to have to make this transition, So I think it just
does
depends.
A cop ever feel, do you ever feel satisfied with that choice? I mean, can you walk away and be like 100% that was the right thing, or are you always going to be uncertain about it?
Oh, I mean, myself and lots of others I know are certain that they made the right decision.
Okay.
I think a lot of cops have left policing and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they made the right decision for themselves or their family or their business or whatever it is that they want to do with their lives. So yeah, I've never missed a night's sleep over it. Never once. So
Why?
I look back on my career with, I'm very satisfied with what I did. I don't regret it, but I'm like, it was a season of my life that obviously was a big deal, especially since of the social media thing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't regret it doing it, and I don't regret leaving it.
Based on like wellness, like if you measure different areas of your life and how well you were, I mean, when you left, did those things improve for you? Is that how you know it was the right choice?
Well, I think that there's some undeniable things that are beneficial when you're not working 12 to 18 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. Yeah. And particularly doing police work that often. So yeah, I mean, it's probably the physical side of things is been the best for me. Like I don't have any regrets, about the change, but there were certainly huge benefits that came along with like sleeping like a normal person and not having to, of course I transitioned as an entrepreneur. So I've always run my own businesses since I've transitioned out. And for me, I love the fact that I don't have to hope that I get my vacation time.
Right.
Like, oh, maybe this year I can get this, or, oh, well, what holidays will I have to give up this year? Or what events will I have to miss for my family this year? I don't have to miss any of those things. I can be there for my family in ways that, I don't have to ask anybody if I can be there for my grandkid's birthday party. I just go.
I've heard several cops say that whatever they did for their next chapter, it was going to be self-employed. They were not going to work for somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So there is a pressure though, especially as manpower shortages are in lots of law enforcement agencies and people feel like they're kind of the last man standing. There's this balance between letting down their fellow cops, failing to be there for their fellow cops, versus what you were talking about, which I see as kind of, you're risking sacrificing yourself on the altar of law enforcement, which you don't want to do. But some cops feel kind of a martyr's complex, feel like, well, maybe I have to. Everybody else left, and so now I've got to stick it out to the bitter end, no matter what it costs me. Can you speak to that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an ego problem. That's 100% ego talking. If someone feels like, well, they need me to stay.
Yeah.
I should stay for them. That is couching an ego problem under the guise of a servant's heart.
Yeah.
No, they don't need you. No one's coming for you. You will be replaced and it's going to be okay. You know, like it's just,
the city won't fall apart without you.
Not your responsibility. You're not Batman. The world will continue to move. Evil will continue to be present, and people will step in and do that job. So it's like, I've really come to believe it's 100% an ego thing for people who feel like, well, if I left, then how will they ever fill in the blank? I mean, that's I've heard that reasoning before, and that's the diagnosis for my part.
Well, that there is a lot of ego in law enforcement, and
for sure,
and there's something noble about that. Dying for the lost cause kind of thing, even if it's not actually that. You can frame it that way and feel like, well, it's okay that I'm not taking care of myself. It's okay that it's affecting my family negatively. I've got to do this for these noble justifications. And so, what if you're not confident about what your next chapter should be? Like maybe you think you should get out, but you don't really have a plan in place yet. You still feel like it's 5 years away. What should a cop in that position do?
I think you gotta have an honest conversation with yourself. I think that's really what it comes down to. And you got to know what do you really want? Who do you want to be? It's not always easy to answer that question, because a lot of people are living out what they think, they're supposed to be, or they continue on in their career in a way that they think that they're supposed to. And not a lot of people take time to ask themselves what they want to be. What do they want to accomplish in their lives? And understand, is this career going to help me be that person? And I think that's where those decisions, that, like I said, if your marriage is falling apart, and a lot of it comes back to experiences or issues with, working at a particular department or particular aspects of the job that has impacted that, what's more important to you, that relationship or your career? Which, you have to, I can't answer that for somebody, but they need to have those conversations with themselves. And if they know that they want something more, then they have to ask themselves, well, what would I need to do what would a person living that life do next?
Yeah.
What do I want to do? What do I enjoy doing? And you're right. Not everybody can be an entrepreneur. And I know that in our project, we try to overcome that by giving people a really good template to follow, so that even if you're not an entrepreneur, like a business leader where you want to grow a business where you have employees and all these responsibilities, you can still just kind of follow orders.
Yeah, that could be taught.
And we give the template of, hey, just go do. You don't have to think about being an entrepreneur. You can just go do, and action is going to do way more. You can't steer a parked car, right? So a lot of people are paralyzed by their own fears. Yeah. Of whatever, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of judgment. And as long as you're only keeping that in it's like a circular ride, donkey ride, at the carnivals where you pay a couple of bucks and sit on the thing. You just go in a circle, and it's like, I mean, you can think about it, but you got to do something. You got to take steps to answer that question and to start working towards something else. Right.
Well, and a lot of cops have this feeling of obligation, and I don't even know that it's necessarily coming from within themselves. I know a lot of cops who are second or third generation cops, and they were kind of led to that career and not that the family did anything nefarious, but they wanted to emulate dad or mom and be a cop like them. And so that's kind of hard to let go of that, because now it's an identity crisis. Since I was 7 years old, I knew I was going to be a cop, and now I'm in my 30s and I'm thinking maybe I should go ahead and leave that behind. Yeah. That's not so easy.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's not easy if you identify a career with yourself, but I don't think that that's healthy. It doesn't really matter what the job is. I don't think if you're a dentist, if your whole identity is wrapped up in being a dentist, you have a problem. It doesn't really matter fill in the blank career or why you ended up in the career. What matters is the actions that flow from your character. Right. So if for me, it doesn't matter whether I'm trimming trees or if I was writing traffic tickets. It's all, who am I as a person and why am I doing what I do? What am I accomplishing with this? And I think that we, kind of combine our skill sets and our desires that flow out of our character. And you need to be identified. What do you want to be remembered for? Do you want to be remembered as a cop, or do you want to be remembered for a person that, faced dangerous situations with courage? And if it's the latter, you can do that in all sorts of ways. It doesn't have to be only in this career. You know what I'm saying? It's right. So I try to divorce the character from the career, even though there's going to be overlap there. There is a distinction. And I think that when people can find that distinction with some clarity, then they're able to start taking action on that.
Sure. Let me lean into that identity stuff a little bit more. Is it easier after law enforcement to be a person of faith?
That's an interesting question too.
I know a lot of young cops who struggle. They struggle with that. They're young. It's part of that's just being young. Part of that's being young, and you're doing shift work. And so it's not like you can go to church regularly and that kind of thing. And you're also maybe rebelling a little bit and whatever, but
yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I had good moments and bad moments of both, my own significance of belief or depth of belief, and or the practicalities of living my faith out. I don't know that it's easier, because I feel like I whittled all of the things that you see as a police officer. I filtered them all through the lens of faith, because I don't know how anybody else does it, other than I mean, like, I just don't understand how an atheist, for example, does police work. I don't even understand why they would do it, right? Let alone how they process things. I can't understand it, because to me, the world cannot make sense without some type of objective morality, and objective morality makes absolutely zero sense in an atheistic world. It doesn't mean anything. Morality means nothing anymore. So I don't know why anybody's being a cop if they don't have faith in something, or they're not a person that's orienting themselves at least that way, in a general way, to say, I think there's something
bigger than yourself,
that's bigger than us, that we're responsible for, or is kind of like created the way things are supposed to be. I think you have to at least have that to probably not off yourself as a cop. Otherwise, I don't know. That's why a lot of cops will either end their own life, or they will drive their life into the ground, because they don't know how to process what they're seeing.
Did you get that direction from your dad?
I grew up in a really strong Christian home. So, I mean, I would say yes. I mean, I grew up in that environment. So I have gone through different evolutions of my own, crisis of faith and different things like that. But I mean, in general, that grid, a way to see the world, was definitely like the environment that I grew up in.
Okay. When you were at the agencies you were up in the Detroit area, right?
Yep.
Okay. So did you have chaplains that you knew by name?
No.
Really?
No.
Really?
I had nothing. We, I think one time on a critical incident, one of our bosses said, you guys got to debrief over this. And then they had some psychiatrist come in to us and the FD at the same time. And we sat in a circle, and it was really dumb. It was not effective.
Okay. So after law enforcement, for you personally, what's been the best, developments? What's been the selling points after you left law enforcement for you?
Way more money has been a selling point. So that's been nice to actually move into an environment where I dictate how much I make, and I'm only limited by myself, and I'm not working for the lowest common denominator.
Sure.
I'm not going out there humping calls and getting more arrests and getting more dope and guns off the street, only to make the same as the guy that just basically breathed for 10 years and did nothing else. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah. I love the fact that if I want to achieve something, I have to set my mind to it and go do it. And I'm responsible for it. So that's been a huge selling point, is that I can establish my own worth and then live that out.
Excellent.
So that's huge. And then it's just created more opportunities to pour into other people, and nothing makes me happier than coaching guys that are also in this transition.
Yeah.
And having them sort of like wake up to that value that they have and the skill sets that they've developed, in this career being applied some way else to continue to help people, and to see them wake up to that and reap the benefits of that has been awesome.
Well, that is the reason I wanted to talk to you about transitioning, because of the work you're doing with 10-7. So can you tell me about that? Can you describe what it is you're doing?
Yeah, it's super simple stated mission. We're trying to help 10,000 cops, veterans, or other public safety professionals supplement or replace their income through residential real estate. We're teaching all those people how to go from 0 to 6-figure real estate businesses. We have a whole system we call the tactical agent system, and we help people achieve whatever those goals are for themselves. To be able to, some people just want to work less overtime. Some people want to get out altogether. Right. Some people want to be ready for retirement in 3 or 4 years, and they just want to get their feet wet and have the skill set that they can transition into. There's all sorts of reasons or circumstances that people come to us with, but yeah, it's we're trying to help people day in and day out achieve that.
Well, Mike, that can never work, because inflation, recession, economic bubbles, whatever, that can never work. What do you do when people are naysayers?
We tell them to unscrew their heads. We're pretty straight talking group of people. So that's one advantage we have, is we're not a typical button up, drive a particular car kind of salesy real estate group. We are a bunch of former cops and military dudes, and we just kind of say it like it is and try to attack things pretty head on with that stuff. Do
you get a lot of naysayers that are they're ignorant of economics, they're ignorant of the business?
There's just a lot of negative Nancy's, and I mean, like, we learn to be that way as cops, right? By the time you're that 8 to 10 year, 12 year veteran, everybody's like just negative Nancy. Everything's negative. Everything's bad. The world's falling apart. This, that, or the other thing, and yeah, we try to snap them back into some sense of objective reality.
Yeah. Well, and restore some hope, restore some positivity. It's difficult for anybody in law enforcement to have their nose rubbed in the worst of society day after day, and have it not breed cynicism. And then that cynicism,
they lose perspective.
Yeah. It bleeds over into everything else they do, every relationship and every potential project. And I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential in the law enforcement community, both while they're on the job and after they leave law enforcement, because they're so down on everything. They've just lost hope. And so all that untapped potential just goes to waste.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to say about 10-7?
Come on aboard. Come one, come all. If you want to find more about that, and which is pretty much where I'm pointing everybody, it's 10-7project.com. So it's TEN7project.com.
Okay.
And there's a video when you land there. So everything it's pretty Big Bird Cookie Monster style content. Like if you can't figure it out from the simple instructions, then it's probably not for you.
Good for you.
Probably keep doing what you're doing.
That's fantastic. Tell me what else you've got going on.
I'm continuing to do nonprofit work in the law enforcement space. We're doing some behind the scenes work with humanizing the badge. We've got some plans for that, and we just continue to try to put out content or information or be a champion for not only encouraging law enforcement officers, but also educating non-cops on issues and helping them to understand, what cops go through, what their perspectives are, and help them to understand situations that the media gets completely distorted.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the work you've done, videos you've made, podcasts you produce. I consume it, and I sure appreciate the work that you do there in that space also.
Yeah, more than welcome. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate the support and the opportunity to have a conversation like this and just share what I'm doing. Appreciate it.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
Heck, me too, man.
I want to thank Mike for joining me today. He's a pretty busy guy, and yet he agreed to speak to you all just moments after I first contacted him. I can tell that his heart still bleeds blue for his fellow officers. Mike's 10-7 project has the goal of helping 10,000 cops, veterans, and other public safety professionals supplement or replace their income through residential real estate. Now, this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. Rather, it's a program that believes in hard work, adding value, and serving others. The results will be up to you. But the 10-7 Project is a group of people who understand cops and veterans, and they want to see them succeed in the next stage of life. Maybe you could look into it or suggest it to a friend. On the next episode of Hey Chaplain, I interview a retired district court judge.
I counted them. They were one short.
Uh-oh.
And I said to the jailer, I checked before, and I said, there's supposed to be 13 prisoners. How come he only brought 12? So he goes, uh-oh, he said. The guy still was in leg irons. I don't know how he got down. He went down the stairs, somehow made it, and from the second floor, and he made it up the street. Of course, he was in orange.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the orange jumpsuit and the leg irons tend to stand out.
Yeah.
Downtown Kansas City, yeah.
He made it downtown, but they caught him.
Oh, my goodness. The views expressed here are the personal views of the host and our guests and do not necessarily represent the views of any law enforcement agency or its components. If you liked what you heard here, please share this episode with a cop or someone who loves a cop. Thank you for listening today, and as always, pray for peace in our city.